All right, men, welcome to today's episode of Strong Men, Strong Marriages. Super excited. I've got a great interview with Dr. Debi Silber today. So she formed the Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute. She's a psychologist, health, mindset, and personal development expert. She's found a bunch of things, Fox, CBS, Dr. Oz. Um, so just doing lots of great work and author. Just really excited to have her. So yeah, thank you for being on with us today.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to the opportunity.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you can just tell us, if you want to tell us any more about your background besides that, and then just kind of how you got started in this field.
Yeah, you don't study something like betrayal unless you have to, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm in business over 30 years, health, mindset, personal development. And then I had a really painful betrayal from my family. Thought I did everything I needed to do to heal from that. And then a few years later, it happened again. This time it was my husband. That was the deal breaker. Got him out of the house, looked at the two experiences, thinking, okay, well, what's similar to these two? Me, what else? And I realized, boundaries were always getting crossed. I never really took my needs seriously and decided it's time to do something different. So a book wasn't getting me out of this jam. I thought, I need a whole PhD in it. So here it was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business. And I enrolled in this PhD program in transpersonal psychology, psychology of transformation and human potential, because I was changing so much. I didn't quite understand it. He was too, wasn't ready to look at that. And then it was time to do a study. So I study betrayal, what holds us back, what helps us heal, and what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive. That study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my family, my work, my life.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, well, tell us about those discoveries. What did you find?
Yeah, sure. So the first one was, I had a feeling that betrayal was a different type of trauma. I had been through death of a loved one, I'd been through disease, but I was like, nope, betrayal feels very different for me. I didn't want to assume it was the same for everyone else. So I asked my participants, I said, if you've been through other traumas besides betrayal, does it feel different for you? Unanimously. I said, oh my gosh, it's so different. Here's why. Because it feels so intentional, we take it so personally. So the entire self gets shattered. Rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust. Like when you lose someone you love, you grieve, you're sad, you mourn the lost, life will never be the same. But you don't question the entire relationship. You don't
Sure.
question your ability to trust. You don't question your sanity. Betrayal has you questioning all of it. So that type of healing needed its own name, which is now called post-betrayal transformation. So that betrayal is a different type of trauma was the first discovery.
Yeah.
Want me to get to the second one?
Yeah, well, so just a reflection on that. So, in my work, I work with guys on both sides, guys who have betrayed their wives through pornography or they've been unfaithful, and guys who their wife has been unfaithful, right? And so I hear from both sides, definitely resonate with what you're saying. They're saying, man, I don't know if I can trust myself again. I'm questioning the whole relationship. I'm questioning God. Like I was trying to do everything right. How could this happen to me? Um, so yeah, it's very yeah, people take it very personally. They get very paranoid too. Like start monitoring everything. They're so scared of this happening again. They're trying to control that. Um, so I guess a quick question on that, like with that sort of paranoia people get, and maybe this will come with the other kind of steps
Mhm.
of healing, but any tips that you typically give people about that?
Yeah, well, they're all really common as part of the second discovery. I mean, that's classic what we go through. But here's the thing too, we have programs for the betrayed and for the betrayer as well. I mean,
Good.
and we have a lot of men in our programs, and it's amazing to see everything you said is so classic, but also the ones who were the betrayers when they are ready to become someone they're proud of, they transform. I mean, it's beautiful to see, but we'll get to that. But
Yeah.
anyway, so the second discovery was that there's actually this collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal, it's known as post-betrayal syndrome.
Mm.
We've had over 95,000 people take our post-betrayal syndrome quiz on our site to see to what extent they're struggling. And what's so interesting is we've all been taught time heals all wounds. I have the proof that when it comes to betrayal, that's not true. There's there's a question that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? And people write things like, my betrayal happened 35 years ago. I'm unwilling to trust. My betrayal happened 10 years ago. It feels like it happened yesterday. So we know that we cannot count on time or a new relationship to heal betrayal. It needs to be deliberate and intentional. So really classic, someone like who you're speaking about is saying, I feel so, I have to check in and I don't feel safe. And well, yeah, they're not going to until that betrayal is healed. And I'm not talking about reconciliation. I'm talking about within them.
Mm.
So really classic. And I'm happy to share some of the stats from the quiz if that would serve.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, because that'd be really awkward if you said no.
Yeah, you got me on that one. No, I'm very curious.
Okay, so imagine 95,000 people, lots of men, lots of women, almost every country is represented. 78% constantly revisit their experience. 81% feel a loss of personal power. 80% are hypervigilant. 94% deal with painful triggers. And anybody who's had a trigger knows how painful they are. The most common physical symptoms, 71% have low energy, 68% have sleep issues, 63% have extreme fatigue, sleep all night, you wake up, you're exhausted. 47% have weight changes. So in the beginning, maybe you can't keep food down. Later
Yeah,
on, you're using food for comfort.
sure.
45% have a digestive issue, and that could be anything, Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, you name it. The most common mental symptoms, 78% are overwhelmed. 70% are walking around in a state of disbelief. 68% can't focus. 64% are in shock. 62% can't concentrate. So imagine you can't concentrate. You're exhausted. You have a gut issue. You still have to show up at work every day. You still have to take care of your kids. That's not even the emotional issues. Emotionally, 88% experience extreme sadness. 83% are very angry, and you can bounce back and forth between those two emotions all day long.
Sure.
82% feel hurt, 80% have anxiety, 79% are stressed, just a few more. Here's why I wrote the book Trust Again. 84% have an inability to trust. That one just killed me. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. 82% find it hard to move forward, and 90% want to move forward, but they don't know how.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's super valuable right there. So whether, if you're a guy who, was unfaithful or somehow betrayed his wife, and you're watching your wife go through that, just even understanding like all these things are common. One of the things that I try to teach guys is to try to, understand your wife's experience. And then that's super helpful. Just kind of like name those things off just so that they can kind of watch for it and see. And also on the other side, if you've been betrayed, like just know, these things are really common. This is, like you said, this is an actual syndrome that
Oh, yeah.
that
And,
happens.
and yeah, and what's even crazier is those numbers. You didn't hear me say anything 20%, 30%. These numbers are
Right.
common.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're also not necessarily from a recent betrayal. I mean, this could be
Mm,
from, your parent who did something awful when you were a kid. This could
mm,
be from the girlfriend who broke your heart in high school. So think about this. That person may not know, care, even remember. They may not even be alive. And here you are,
yep.
years, decades later, struggling with these symptoms because the betrayal has not been healed.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing I want to stress is do not count on time. Do not count on
Yeah.
a relationship. It will follow you around like a shadow until you deliberately and intentionally heal it. The good news is you can heal from all of it, which was the third discovery.
All right. Well, let's hear it.
All right. So for me, this was the most exciting. And what was discovered was while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many people do, if we're going to fully heal, and by fully heal, I mean symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome to that completely rebuilt place of post-betrayal transformation, we're going to move through 5 proven, predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every stage, and we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. Healing is entirely predictable. Happy to go through the stages.
Yeah, please.
Okay. And here's the thing for everybody who's listening, you will know exactly what stage you're in when I share them. You will also know what stage your partner's in when I share them. So different things you need to do to move through the stages. It's all predictable. There's a roadmap now. It's what we do within the PBT Institute. It's what all of our coaches are certified in. It's all mapped out in Trust Again. Here's a boiled down version. Stage one, this is actually before it happens. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What I saw with everybody, me too, was a heavy lean on the physical and the mental, thinking and doing, and kind of neglecting or ignoring the emotional and the spiritual, feeling and being. Well, if a table only has 2 legs, it's easy for that table to topple over. That's us. Stage 2, shock, trauma, D-Day, Discovery Day, the scariest of all of the stages. And this is the breakdown of the body, the mind, the worldview. Right here, you've ignited the stress response. You are now headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is in a complete state of chaos and overwhelm. You cannot wrap your mind around the information you just learned. This makes no sense. And your worldview has been shattered. Your worldview is your mental model, the rules that govern you that prevent chaos. Don't go there, trust this person. And in one earth-shattering moment or series of moments, every rule you've been holding to be real and true is no longer. The bottom has truly bottomed out on you, and a new bottom hasn't been formed yet. This is terrifying.
Yeah.
But think about it.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
let me ask you about that. So
Yeah, sure.
one of the things that um, I've found, right, working with men who've been unfaithful, a lot of times they will kind of piecemeal out their confession, right? So it's like, hey, yeah, you know, I did talk to that girl, and then 2 weeks later, okay, yeah, we did kiss, and then a week later, oh yeah, actually we did have sex, and then 2 weeks later, oh, actually there were more women. So I always tell them, really bad idea, right? And I think it kind of speaks to this, right? Because it's almost like D-daying like over and over again. Um, yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that too, as far
Yeah.
as
The
yeah,
trickle truth, it is so excruciatingly painful. You
yeah,
think, you think, well, I don't want to hurt them.
yeah,
Well, your actions have hurt them, period.
right.
So that full disclosure is almost like, you know what it's like? It's like, man, I don't mean to be kind of gross, but it's like if you have to throw up, you're
Hmm.
like you're holding it back. There's
Yep.
something that you throw up, you feel better. When with that full disclosure, everything's out there and you know what you're dealing with. And what happens is the transformation happens when there is a complete and utter death and destruction of the old. That's how you rebirth the new, whether
Yeah.
it's a new you or a new collective you. But and I'll tell you, there was 3 groups in my study who did not heal. And there was one group where the betrayer had very little consequences, whether it was because of not wanting to break up a family or religious reasons or a financial fear, codependency, whatever it was. They just tried to deal with the trickle truths and everything that went along with it. I saw 2 things: a further deterioration of the relationship. And number 2, that group by far was the most physically sick.
Mm,
So you think you're not, you don't want to hurt your partner, you're hurting them so much more. Now, I can tell you, it's in that death and destruction of the old. Like I said, you rebuild yourself. That's what I did with my family. It wasn't an option to rebuild with them. Or if the situation lends itself, if you're willing and you want to, you rebuild something from the ground up new with the person who hurt you. That's what I did with my husband. So as 2 totally transformed people, we married each other again.
mm,
New rings, new vows, new dress, new everything. And it's a totally different relationship based on everything new. And,
yeah.
and we were together since 1984, right? But now we're having so much fun. We're making up for so much lost time. All of that. None of this could be happening if there were trickle truths, if there wasn't that destruction.
Yeah.
But that's how you birth the new.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned your family a few times. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about what that betrayal was?
Yeah, it was the family betrayal. It's so devastating. But now think about this with any betrayal. These are the people you trust the most. These are the people you run to when other people are causing harm. So when these are the people who are causing the harm, it is absolutely earth-shattering at its core. And then, you go from something like that to, let's say, a partner where you're like, well, you got me then, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and then it's the same thing. It's as if people just keep taking their mask off.
Hmm.
And they're like, no, 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 this is really who I've been. And that's why betrayal rocks us the way it does, because it is a complete attack on the body and the mind and the heart. And the more we trust and the more we depend on someone, the deeper the betrayal and the greater level of cleanup. And that's why, betrayal is one of the most painful of the human experiences. I mean, the good news is you can heal from all of it. So I only brought you to stage
Yep.
2. I would love to bring you through the
Yep.
stages. I can't leave
Let's do
someone
it. Yeah.
in stage 2. Yeah. So anyway, when the bottoms out on you, what do? You grab hold of anything or anyone to stay safe and stay alive. And that's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Where do I go? Who can I trust? Here's the trap though. Stage 3 by far is the most common place we get stuck. And here's why. And I want everybody listening to imagine their partner in this stage or you in this stage. And when you hear it, you'll know why. Once we've figured out how to survive our experience, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where we just came from, we think it's good. We're like, I got this. And because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we don't know there's a stage 4 or stage 5. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. But because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we plant roots here, we park here, we stay here. And 4 things start to happen. The first thing is we start getting all those small self benefits. We get to be right. We like being right. We get our story. We get someone to blame. We get a target for our anger. We get sympathy from everyone we tell our story to, right? And on some level, it feels good. So we're like, so we plant deeper roots. Now that we're here longer than we should be, the mind starts doing things like questioning, like, well, maybe I'm not that great. Maybe I deserved it. Maybe this, maybe that. So we plant deeper roots. Now, because these are the thoughts we're thinking, this is the energy we're putting out. Well, like energy attracts like energy. So now you're calling in circumstances and opportunities and relationships to confirm, yep, this is where you belong. The misery loves company crowd, they find you now. That support group that keeps you stuck, now you're in that group now. And very often this is where we will sabotage our growth because we don't want to outgrow our people. We will sabotage our healing because we don't want to outgrow our betrayer. Very common right here. Anyway, if you're, it gets worse, but I'll get you out of here. Because it feels so bad, but we don't know there's anywhere else to go. Right here in this spot, here's where we start numbing, avoiding, distracting. We start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, whatever, to numb, avoid, and distract. So think about it. We do this for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years. And I can see someone 20 years later and say, that drinking you're doing, that emotional eating, that numbing in front of the TV, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they would look at me like I'm crazy. They would say it happened 20 years ago. All they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so when you're saying grabbing on, that would be more like to grabbing onto the person who betrayed them or grabbing onto friends, not grabbing onto like someone like you that could sort of help them through it. It's just kind of like, okay, let me just survive.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And the longer you stay there, the harder it is to leave because, first of all, your mind always wants to prove you right.
Mhm.
So you will find as much confirming evidence as you want that you deserve to stay here. Here's also where we have so many people coming into the PBT Institute with therapy trauma. The most well-meaning therapists, but if they are not highly skilled in betrayal, if anything acts like crazy glue, keeping you in stage 3, it's endlessly unpacking your story without a strategic plan to move forward. We
Yeah.
see that all the time, but they
Yeah.
don't know there's a stage 4 and stage 5. So it makes total sense. They're trying to support, they're trying to help, right? That support group. Well, how do you feel today? It's like, it
Sad.
doesn't, exactly. And then you're like, oh,
Betrayed.
I'm sad too,
Yeah.
and it's like, let's talk about how sad we are.
Yeah.
And there's nothing about that that's moving anybody towards the healing and transformation that's waiting for them
Yeah.
in stages 4 and 5. Anyway, if you're willingness is a big word right here, to let go of your story and everything you get with it. You move to stage 4, grieve, mourn the loss, bunch of things you need to do. You
Yep.
move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened. I just can't, but I control what I do with it. Right there in that decision, you're turning down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but at least you stop the massive damage you were creating in stages 2 and stage 3. Stage 4 feels like if you've ever moved. If you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever, all your stuff's not there. It's not cozy yet, but you're like, okay, we can do this. We got this. It feels like that. What's so interesting about stage 4 is, think about it. If you were to move, you don't bring everything with you. You don't bring the things that you've outgrown that don't represent who you want to be in that new space. And what I found was if your friends weren't there for you, you don't take them with you. You've outgrown them right here. And people send me all the time, I've had these friends for years. Is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they don't rise, they don't come. When you've settled into this new mental space, you've made it home, you move into the 5th most beautiful space. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal, self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise. You couldn't do that earlier. You were just dealing with too much trauma. Your mind is healing. You're making new rules. You're making new boundaries based on the road you just traveled. And you have a new worldview based on everything you see so clearly now. And the 4 legs of that table, in the beginning, it was all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
Oh, awesome. And so what you do in your program and your coaches and the people trained um, in your method, they would just help someone kind of identify that stage and then kind of work through those stages. And it sounds like that, that stage 4, it's all about taking ownership, right? Kind of deciding, okay, like what do I want the rest of my life to look like? What am I going to allow? What am I not going to allow? I imagine that's a lot of the work you and your people are doing, helping people kind of identify what that looks like for
Yeah,
them. And
each and all of our coaches are certified in the 5 stages, but they each come in with their own specialty. So they come in specializing in narcissism and reconciliation and chronic pain and divorce and self-growth and all these things. Yeah, it's all about stage 4 is very action oriented, where stage 3 is action oriented on finding what did what did the cheater do, where learning about all the different things and about
yeah,
them. Stage 4 is very action oriented around what do I need to heal, what modality, what tool, what strategy, what mindset hack, whatever. So the energy is taken off of the betrayer and all they've done, and it's being put on the betrayed. Like, what do I need now? Who do I want to become? What do I want to
yeah,
use this opportunity to create? And I'll tell you, in stage 4 and stage 5, it is very common to see, that new relationship with someone entirely new or with the person who hurt them, new levels of health. We see that all the time. What's really interesting is how many new businesses are birthed in
mm,
stage 4 and stage 5. Like the PBT Institute, that was a stage 5 thing.
yeah,
You don't have access to that stuff in the earlier
right,
stages.
yeah, creative and all of that. One question I often get from uh, you know people who've been betrayed or betrayers themselves, they the betrayed person will sometimes want to know like every single little detail, right? Like, where were you this day? What happened? What did you do with that woman? Like that kind of thing, which yeah, it sounds like that's in that stage 3, how you describe. What do
Mhm.
you usually recommend to people about that? Is that useful? Is it not? Does it kind of depend on the person?
Yeah. There are so many different factors around what, how, when is the best time to share. And here's the thing, the same question could be for 1,000 different reasons. One day it's for a sense of security. One day it's for a need to know. One day it's just to make sure that their response is the same as it was the last time. So
Yeah,
it's coming, these questions are coming because the betrayed person has been so shattered and so rocked, and they're looking for consistency, They're looking for security. They're looking for safety. They're looking for anything. So yes, they want to know, and they need to know everything. They don't need, but every single dirty detail, not necessarily that's in their best interest, because you can't unhear, you can't unsee, you can't unknow.
Right.
So this is something, we have one coach in particular who like really crafts out these questions with our members, just so they can do this in a way that is working for them and not even more debilitating than what they've been through already. And we work with the we work with the betrayers too. And it's a newer program that we have, and it's quickly becoming one of our fastest growing programs. And I was really concerned at first, and I was like, I'm not sure if there's going to be a fit for this. They have an entirely different section within the PBT Institute.
Sure.
These people are amazing. They're like, I blew up my whole life, shattered the heart and the trust of the only people that I love. What was I thinking? How do I become someone, that I'm proud of now? And they transform. It's beautiful to see.
Yeah. 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 I get to do that too sometimes, guys
Yeah.
who have been unfaithful. It's amazing. But kind of coming back to that question, because so like if you're the guy who was unfaithful and your wife's like, tell me what sex position you were in, and like they're wanting to know everything. Typically what I'm telling these guys is, hey, just let her know, you'll let her know, but also just like really try to figure out if that's going to be helpful for you to know those details or not. And that's typically what I tell them. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, my take is, like I said, well, everything is blinded by so much pain, so much pain. So one of the things that soothes the heart and mind of the person who's being betrayed is to see is for the betrayer to see themselves so clearly. So even like any opportunity where it's like, I can't even believe that was me. I mean, I'm so disgusted with, how could I do that to you? What was I thinking? And it's almost like the more growth there is, the further of a separation there is from the person who could possibly do that to who they're becoming.
Yeah.
So the underlying message behind everything the betrayer needs to say is how clearly they see who they were and how far that version is from who they're growing into.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Because I mean, like you said, really the betrayed person's questions are like, you know, are you gonna do this again?
Yeah.
And protecting themselves from being hurt, trying to protect themselves from being hurt. Awesome, Debbie. Well, super powerful stuff, and such a cool journey you've had. Now getting to help lots of people kind of travel through that as well. So before we wrap up here, any last kind of anything you think would be helpful to share with guys who either have been betrayed or they betrayed their wife?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll speak to both. So for the guy who's been betrayed, I get the pain. I know how painful it is. And I also know the worst of it is over. To stop your healing in stage 3 is unfair to you and your family and the world. So you owe it to yourself to just move through those final 2 stages. You will meet a version of yourself who is so strong, so healthy, so healed, so whole. And it's worth moving through it to live as that version of you. That's just waiting in stage 4 and stage 5. To the betrayer, whatever was going through you at the time, there's no excuse. There's no anything. What your partner needs to know is that that version of you is dead and gone and will not be coming around. Take full, complete, total responsibility. Don't make excuses. Don't blame. Own it. Own it, because with that, you get your power back. Now, I'm not saying don't take the time to clean up anything that led to your actions, but never use your past trauma or whatever as an excuse or reason to betray. Use it as an opportunity to become that version of you that's waiting for you on the other side of your healing.
Awesome. Love it. Um, Great. So, if people want to work with you, where's the best place for them to go to find you?
Yeah, everything is at the PBT, as in post betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com. We have a
Cool.
reclaim program for the betrayed, a rebuild program for the betrayer. It is very common. One goes into rebuild, goes into reclaim. They meet up again as two very different people.
Amazing. Yeah. And kind of to that too, even if, your spouse doesn't want to do it,
Mhm.
you definitely will want to do this for yourself anyway, right? Because
100%, because
yeah,
at the very least, your best decisions are made in stage 5. So
yeah,
get to stage 5, because the version of you there sees things from a very different vantage point.
yeah. Love it. Love it. Awesome, Debbie. Thank you so much. So again, that's the pbtinstitute.com. You can go find her work there. Thanks again so much, guys. And yeah, so great episode. Thanks again, Debbie. Stay strong, men, and we will see you next episode.
Thank you.